All right, welcome everyone to another episode of We All Speak in Poems. Today we're sitting down with Ryan Svendsen, a trumpeter, music supervisor based in LA, a newly viral TikTok star, and listeners of the show may recognize his name from our collaboration a few years back with Laita and North. And how have you been, man?
I'm great. The past 24 hours have been a little wild just because of the video and it going viral. But everything's good on this end. And I wanted to thank you first and foremost, because you're one of the first people I collaborated with a couple of years back where, you know, you were very receptive to me being on the track and me just reaching out by finding you. And so I really appreciate it.
For sure. Yeah. I was actually wondering, I was trying to rack my brain around how we first linked up, and I think it might have been through Charisma.
I think he might have been a link, but at the same time, I thought I found you on Spotify and I reached out, and then it turns out he was a mutual friend. I forget the exact details.
That would make sense.
Yeah,
for sure. Ever since then too, I've just been going down the rabbit hole of like different horns and stuff. I'm really into French horn right now. But yeah, we've got to get another track going.
Oh yeah, I'm totally down for that, especially with my mic now and everything. I used to have to go to different studios to record because for some reason I was so against buying the equipment. I didn't want to deal with all that, you know?
Yeah.
But my friend kept pushing me and he kept saying, you need to invest in this stuff and be able to do it yourself. And it's definitely paid off.
Yeah, for sure. It's one of those things where it's like, in your mind, it's such a burden, right? Like it takes up so much room thinking it's too complicated. And then once you learn after like a day or a couple hours, you're like, oh, this is great. And now you can do it forever, you know,
exactly.
without hiring a producer and stuff.
I was used to the USB port on my computer and I'm thinking, how are all these things going to go and fit? And then what's the interface and what's all this? It's very overwhelming at first, but then like you said, once you get the hang of it, smooth sailing.
Yeah, it clicks, right? It just makes sense.
Did you end up getting the mic just because of the pandemic and everything? And it was harder to get into studios?
1,000%. Yeah. Right when it hit in March, I just put my foot down and said, okay, I'll make the investment. And I had a friend just send me the equipment list of what I needed as an entry level. And especially for a trumpet, what kind of microphone is best because it takes a certain kind because it's so loud. And no one trained me how to use Logic. I just kind of started playing around with it and recorded some stems and got the delivery process all set up. And now it's all smooth sailing. It's good.
That's awesome.
Absolutely, yeah. I've been wanting to jump into Logic for so long, but not being on a Mac system, obviously I can't. But I was even, thinking about switching over to the Mac systems, but I'm trying to convince myself not to. It's just,
again, it's the leap and just it's a whole. We're used to our ways, so it's really hard to disrupt and change.
Exactly. Yeah, and I mean, getting into it, I don't even want to share your credits yet. Like over the past year almost, or maybe 2 years, like they've just grown exponentially. At least with your trumpet playing. Like obviously your music supervision credits have always been crazy, right? Ever since I first started looking into you and stuff. But yeah, like your trumpet playing is on Industry Baby by Lil Nas X. Like that is
amazing.
That's mind blowing. Like
that's so cool.
How does that feel to, I guess technically you can hear yourself on radios all over the place, and he was on the top of the Billboard charts. I don't know if he still is, but for a while there, right?
Yeah, it's consistently been in the top 10 since it debuted, and right now it's at number 3 with Adele at number 1 and Kid Laroi and Justin Bieber at number 2. The way it all just went down was very organic, and just like, us working together or me working with anyone, I was sent the stems late at night and they're like, yeah, there's a horn part already there, but we just need you to play over it because there weren't any real trumpets on it yet. Mm-hmm. And I listened to it and I was like, oh yeah, that's Lil Nas. That's cool. And then I didn't know who was rapping in the middle of it. I was taking some guesses, but they wouldn't tell me who it was.
Oh, really?
And and I just recorded about 20 layers of me stacking myself and playing the part, and just sent it back. And that was that. And then it was funny because about 2 weeks later, the Lil Nas X dropped Montero, the trailer. And I heard it in there, and I was like, "Oh, wow, this could be big." And I didn't know if that was the lead single or even what it was, because it was just a little teaser clip. And then when the whole Nike trial got announced, that was pretty funny because I thought he was actually in trouble, but because what he did was he made a shoe with a little bit of his blood in it, and it was a Nike shoe. And Nike sent him like a cease and desist order.
Okay.
And that kind of went viral. And then he made this whole marketing play saying like, my court date's coming up and I'm really like nervous and scared. And on the day of the court date, it's really just the Industry Baby music video and song dropped.
Wow.
So it was like the marketing behind it was just brilliant. And it was all this build up, and then it ended up all just being fun, and the music video is obviously ridiculous and so fun to watch. So it's just fun to play a little role in it. And I've always been advocating for the value of horns and live music within tracks, and especially as there's so many plugins and ways to mimic instruments that nothing really replicates it like the human emotion and tone. And even listening to older tracks in the 70s and 60s, you hear trumpet players mess up all the time, and it adds that uniqueness to it, because so much of the pop music in the 2000s and 2010s is like perfect. All the snare hits, all the vocals, everything's perfect. So I think that if we could play with imperfection a little bit and have it be more of a human emotion, more people connect with it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Whether or not it's, strings, horn sections, everything, I'm an advocate for, maybe writing and composing in VSTs and all that stuff. But for the final result, you should just reach out to somebody, And chances are in your circle, there's going to be, a trumpet player or somebody who knows somebody or whatever,
Yeah. And that was the toughest part, was starting to brand myself through doing collaborations like with yourself, where that track took off and it got millions and millions of plays, and it's rather simple. And just establishing a name for myself so that if you ever think of horns, you're like, oh yeah, Ryan. And then, but still, doing my main job, because that's the whole reason I do my main job, is I knew it was going to be struggle city, just being a pure musician as a trumpet player in Los Angeles. It's really tough out there.
Absolutely. So I wanted to ask you, so feel free to, skip past this question or whatever if you don't want to get into specifics. But so as the trumpet player on, an Industry Baby or whatever other songs, you get performance credits, right? Like sort of performance royalties?
The way,
how's that work?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's the AFM, which is American Federation of Musicians, and it's the union, and pretty much every label is a major label is a signatory of the AFM. And so there's standard rates set up for these sessions where you'll get a leader rate, and then depending how long the session is and depending how many times you layer yourself, it all affects the payment in different ways. So the thing is, and it's a rather unique situation, it's like I get sent these jobs and I don't know where some of them don't even ever see the light of day,
Yeah.
But when they do hit and they do land, that's when you go through the union and, have it all processed through that, because there are back end royalties through the secondary use fund, the SAG-AFTRA fund, where it's a kind of a consensus. They monitor, I think it's the top 10,000 songs each year. And there's a pot of money basically that of all the royalties for that. And they divide them out based on the success of those songs. Wow.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I'm glad that there's some, royalties there for the performers and everything. Cause as somebody who writes a lot of music and gets people to perform it, I don't really know much about that. that side of it.
Yeah.
So I hope
it's,
everybody's sort of,
it's nice. And then also if it gets synced to visual media, we get a cut of that as well. And so it's definitely nice to be compensated in that way and form. There's sometimes where if there's smaller songs that don't have a label, and I know that my involvement with it, the union rate would be more than the whole song cost itself. So it's like I want to help out every single type of musician, regardless of the status they're at. And I certainly don't want to bankrupt a musician who's just coming up and needs horns. And I want to invest in them almost like a penny stock and rise with them if they're doing well as well. So
absolutely.
It's nice to just have that flexibility and be able to play across different genres whenever it's needed.
I love that. And I'm glad it's really been working out for you, like with the smaller people and then also the biggest artists in the world. It's a really nice balance there. Like it's really just cool to see, you know. Some people really go for the most successful and stuff. And it's nice to hear that you're all for, you know, just good music, right? Watching people grow.
That's what it's all. It's really, and that's what made me go this route, is because, you know, one day I was looking at my horn in a practice room and I was thinking, wow, I have to play every note that's going to equate to money and paying rent. And it's like, that's not fun anymore. That's not why I got into this. So like balancing pleasure with work was going to be rather difficult with the trumpet. So that's why I was like, I gotta pivot. And it took a back seat for a while, but now it's definitely a nice supplementary income now.
I know on your Spotify, you have a link to a website called Sound Better.
Yeah.
How did you get into that? And I have a couple more specific questions, but I just want to start with how you got into.
Yeah, thanks. That. Well, first of all, it's funny that you noticed it on Spotify, because those two companies merged with each other. But it was announced last month that they Sound Better bought back their company from Spotify. And I think it was a great integration at first. I don't know how much, if it didn't take off that much or if it wasn't that beneficial, but Sound Better, it's one of those things where I got the setup and my friend told me about the website as well. And there were all these trumpet profiles on there. And it's a website where if you're working on a song, you could go there and find someone with a specialty to finish it, whether they mix it or master it or produce the song itself, or you need a single flute player or a single trumpet player. And you could hire them and you kind of bid with them as well. You send them the audio file, and then I'll send you a quote based on how much work I think it's going to need or what they need. Like the other day I was working on a jazz band section where they wanted trombone and trumpet, and they wanted each instrument layered 4 times. So that's going to take more work and more time. So my quotes adjust depending on it. But I started doing these jobs, and my whole goal was to boost my profile because I was a year late in the game. And there were already, it's like a hierarchy there. There's your review. It's kind of like just like Yelp. Yeah. The more 5-star reviews you have, the more traction you're going to get. So I started doing every single job for $50 or less.
Wow.
Just because I needed to boost my profile and get it out there. And I started the ball started to get rolling a little bit more, and then I increased the price a little bit more. And my profile got boosted. Now I'm the top trumpet provider on there, which is cool. And I've worked in every single continent now across the globe except for one, Antarctica, which, you know, I'm still hoping for if they have a music studio up there. But I'm connecting with all these people, hearing different projects. Some are very specific, like I need this horn line, or some are, I don't even know. I just know that horns need to be on this track. Mm-hmm. And I just record during my lunch break or after work and send the files. And it's like I've gotten more jobs and work through that program, through that website, and because of the pandemic than I think ever before. And so that's why when people ask, I think like the monetization of the arts and music and collaborations, it's really just getting started, and the outreach and with all NFTs and all this other stuff, it's like there's a lot to go around with this, and it's very good. Technology is very good for us.
Yeah,
absolutely. I feel like music is just starting to get valued. Not even music, but maybe even music services and stuff like what you're doing. It's just starting to get valued more. And like we were saying before, there's no excuse now with these tools to use VSTs. You can just go to Sound Better, hire you. And I mean, the turnaround time is probably pretty quick, I would assume, as well.
Yeah, I pride myself on that because I'll do it in a day or less. Some people, and that's what separates, the really stellar providers from the other ones. It's like if you have a tailor, you want them to turn around your clothes in a week. You don't want to be waiting a month because, especially when and it comes to music, there's deadlines and processes and stuff. So if I could make it a little easier and help add value to it, I'm all for it.
Absolutely.
I was just wondering, I know I saw that you had written, and I don't know if this is like for all of people, like users of Sound Better, or if you wrote this just yourself. But you said you didn't want your credits in the songs that you are featured on. Why is that?
That's a great question, or great point. There's different levels of songs that get submitted to Sound Better, and some are just, let's say, rather amateur.
Okay.
And so the thing is, I want to control my brand and my IP, and if it's on a track that is, rather rough, then I can't have any control over that. And I want to have my name associated with things that I want to put my stamp of approval on. And what happened was, this is a great example. On Spotify, I searched my name because my album was about to come out, so I wanted to make sure how everything looked. And my name auto-populated on this other album that popped up in front of all my other stuff. And it turns out it was a Sound Better client who tagged me in his album, even though he didn't seek my approval. He didn't ask, and and I'm sure it's all with good intention, right? To give someone credit. However, it kind of messed up the algorithm, and I had to order a takedown, and it becomes this whole thing. So it really ties into publishing and owning your copyright and being able to control it. It's, and that being said, if it is a really solid track, or if I do get contacted by a big artist, like, I have no problem with them including my name. It's just I want to have control over it. And some people ask still, even though I have that disclaimer, and it's to my discretion if it's to be used or not.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I feel like that's really smart too, having control over, like you said, your brand, and I feel like it's just a smart move for the future.
Another aspect of it is sometimes I get the song without lyrics, and what happens if it's really obscene lyrics, or it's a song that's like
you just don't agree with.
Exactly. I don't want my name associated with it, and should
that's and you can still take as many jobs as you want, and you don't have to worry about these issues that may arise. That's really smart.
Exactly.
You mentioned your newest album, and I wanted to open the episode with promoting the new album, but now we've got here. So you just came out with like a new jazz and pop inspired album called To Elaine.
Yes. And
we love it. We were listening to it last night.
Oh, thank you.
Could you sort of tell us more about it? Like, what was the sort of inspiration behind it and all that?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, during the pandemic last year, my mom passed away, and I was already working on putting together like a debut album. And I thought, what a better way to like honor her, because she didn't really get a proper send off. It was in June of 2020, and
it was just overshadowed.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I had people message me, and they're like, what do we do? And I was like, I don't know. We're like definitely not meeting up though, because we don't want anyone else to to leave us. So I just thought it was a really nice way to honor her, and then also embody a sound and a story within it as well. So putting together the tracks was also very therapeutic in dealing with all that. And so it was a really nice experience. And the main goal of the album was to get my sound more out there as well, so that if people looked up my name, they would be able to hear me right away. Because with a lot of the tracks that I've collaborated on, it's some tracks are hard to hear me, or you don't hear me right away, but it's like, this is my body of work, and this is how I'm sounding right now.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I'm so sorry
Thank
for
you.
your loss.
Oh, thank
Yeah.
you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and just the textures that are in the album, and like, you know, there's even some spots of ambient, you know, maybe pads and stuff, and it's super cool to hear. What's the writing process like? Do you write in the studio, or is this actually like a fully intentional sort of writing, or?
I made it all with my buddy Andre, who's a member of this band Gold Space, and he's actually he works at Rick Rubin's studio as well. And I'm super stoked for him. He's crushing it. And we met organically, and we were like, yeah, let's like link up. And all of a sudden these ideas just started flowing out, and I would play a melody and he would start making the structure around it. And then we would start talking about a bridge, and it was just all so organic. And he's a mastermind at a multi-instrumentalist. So all the drums within it are programmed, but
They sound real.
yeah. Oh, cool. And then he would do the bass and guitar and piano, and we'd be like going back and forth with each other on where the song should go and other things like that, and have it evolve. And then got some real players on there, a couple pianist and a bass player for a couple songs, and got a flute player for another song, actually through Sound Better.
Oh,
So
nice.
yeah, and I just hired her and said, hey, can you improv over this song? And she sent it back in a week. And so just utilizing resources and having fun with it along the way. And I've released hundreds of albums in my career, so that was relatively easy in terms of the upload process and the marketing. I made a visualizer for every single song, because jazz music is really hard to make enticing and aesthetically pleasing. So I just wanted to service it the best way possible. And every platform's different and has their different, unique things between Apple and Spotify and all the others. So,
Absolutely.
I had fun with it, and it was just a really fun project to work on.
Yeah, I was going to mention the sort of visual aspect of it with the, the squiggly lines and the very colorful backgrounds and stuff. I really liked it. Was that all your like sort of concoction, or?
The colors I gave as a guide to Lauren, who did all the artwork.
Okay.
And then she did the pastel background for the album. And then this guy I met on Instagram, Jordan, the visualizer guy, he just knocked it out of the park with the visualizers, because I gave him the colors and then he came up with the concepts and everything.
Oh, amazing.
And yeah.
So how does this album sort of compare to what you normally listen to? Obviously, this is your like compositional style, but what you find yourself listening to, is it similar, like sort of jazz and pop inspired stuff?
That's a great question. I listen to a little bit of everything, but I love State of Jazz playlist on Spotify. It's more of new age jazz.
Yeah.
And the thing is, those jazz players are just like heavy cats, like gig cats, like they're legit players that would absolutely school me any day in terms of like improv and stuff. But I think that one of my fortes is coming up with melodies and the tone of my trumpet. So and my accuracy. So I try to bring that to the forefront within my music, because there's no way I'm ever going to play like a jazz solo that's going to rip someone's face off or anything like that. That's for, the Kamasi Washingtons of the world, and Christian Scotts and all those guys, Wynton Marsalis. But what I listen to is I listen to like Taylor Swift and Dave Matthews Band. I listen to Top 40 all the time. And I get submitted so much music. So I'm all over the place. It's not a specific thing that I really tune into.
Yeah, true. I guess I didn't even consider all the music that you have submitted to you with your day job being a music supervisor. That probably influences a lot of what you listen to as well. You probably find a lot of great music and amateurish music. But,
it's fascinating just how music is presented and how it continues to evolve, because our society, it goes through a lot of cultural moments. So playlists are curated to that. And I get pitched, probably over 300 songs a day. And
Wow.
there's no way I could listen to them all, obviously. But it's really great to familiarize myself with the different labels and publishers so that I know who has what music and where to go when I do need it. Because especially with music supervision, I can't rely on like all the music that's in my head. I usually reach out to the sync library managers and say, hey, do you have something in? And I'll send out basically a brief asking for music along certain parameters that I need for certain scenes.
Oh, that's really interesting. So I guess getting into music supervision, can you sort of explain to people what exactly that entails? Because I think a lot of people might not even realize this is a part of the music industry that, artists and everything are praying to, catch the ears of. Yeah.
Well, the sync industry in general generates about $400 to $500 million in the music industry. So it's actually a small aspect of the overall picture between performance and live and record label revenues and everything else. But it is very important because it's the marriage of music with visual media. So that's between TV, film, video games, anything else. Like anytime you see something on the TV and it has a song behind it, that means it had to be synced to that scene. And there's a process that goes into it of licensing it and having it used for that production. And it involves two sides of a song. You have the publishing, which is the underlying composition of a song, and then you have the master, which is the actual sound recording. And you have to have both of those sides cleared, and there could be multiple owners of each side. And all it takes is one person to say no, or one side to not equal 100%, and it holds up the whole process. And again, that's the important part about ownership and copyright, is that you have a say in these situations, and you could negotiate on your behalf, or if you have a publisher, they can negotiate for you. And it's just it's a fascinating field. And some artists are amazing with the sync game. They're more flexible with their prices. Others are very firm, and they might be a legacy artist who's done it all, and they really want to protect their branding and IP, much like I do with my credits.
Sure.
And they don't need the $1 million to be in a Honda commercial. They don't need $15 million to be part of Facebook ad campaign, and they have every right to say no and every right to say yes. And I think that's one of the amazing parts, is that if an artist that you're really seeking says no, luckily there's billions of other songs that exist that you could get in a similar vein. But again, it really shows the value of music, because when you have the artist that's also backing the commercial, or it's all about brand being able to recognize a song within 2 seconds, you're like, oh, I know where the rest of this commercial is going, or I could trust this brand because I love this song and it makes me feel comfortable.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess this is the part where I have to say to any upcoming artists that are listening to this, make sure you have your songs registered properly to SOCAN, to the ASCAP, to BMI, and to Song Trust now, and all these publishing things, because it's important, when opportunities arise, like, be ready for it,
Yep. And that's a great point, because all the PROs, ASCAP and BMI, they created something called SongView, and it's a database of all the songs within both of their repertoires.
Wow.
And it's how I research a ton of songs, if I need to find who wrote it and who the publishers are. And then I go to reach out to them to clear the song. And if you don't have your information in there, it just makes it so much harder. And you're really just, they're so easy to register within those as well. So I think that's great advice on your end, and really important to do.
Do you find, when you're looking for tracks and stuff, do you find yourself favoring tracks that are registered with a publisher rather than independently published?
Absolutely. And the reason why is because I'm working under deadlines, I have to present music rather quickly to directors and producers for approval. And I can't be mingling around and trying to get an artist set up within a PRO or to make sure, like, are you sure you didn't use any samples, or are you sure you didn't collaborate with anyone that didn't sign off on this? It's almost too risky. And usually the most efficient artists and producers already have all that hammered out. And that's why all these publishers exist and production houses, music production houses exist, because they know that everything in there might be pre-cleared and that it's going to be an easier process. And but that's not to say that if a really strong track, comes across my desk, it's not worth pursuing. It is, especially if I've had sometimes where a director has sent me a track and the artist has like 10 followers, and has no idea what any of this means, or has they ever seen a sync license before, or knows what they're going to sign away or anything like that. So it's nice to not have to hold someone's hand through that process, but I'm obviously willing to do it if need be.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like, especially if a director is sort of pushing for it, there's a reason for it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really interesting hearing from you, because I know a lot of artists are sort of against signing away their publishing.
And you
credits.
could do an admin deal with someone and not have to give away your publishing. It's just, it depends where you're at in your career, because an advance for and $1 million advance for someone could really come in need, and they could, it all depends if they could recoup it rather quickly or not. And there's just so many different factors involved in an artist specific situation. But I think that's why you continually hear from people that, I got taken advantage of. And it's like, well, maybe. I mean, there are snake salesmen out there with any career and any industry, but it's why it's really important to like take a seat back. We know your song's trending, but maybe like hire a really good lawyer to look over these things.
Always hire a lawyer.
Yeah. But also artists, they're very rarely, it's very rare for an artist to have a career trajectory over a decade that really sustains in the spotlight. So it is a kind of a short grab type thing, but we're seeing the emergence and resurgence of people's catalogs through TikTok and other platforms where they could be right back on the charts again. I mean, Thriller always re-enters the charts every Halloween, and all it takes is look at Fleetwood Mac with TikTok and how that song blew up, and then they start performing at festivals again, and everyone's talking about them. So it's pretty amazing to see what's going on right now.
Absolutely. I love hearing this from your point of view, because you really have a unique point of view. It's one that I never get to hear about, it's super interesting.
I was just going to mention, talking about the value of a song prior to it really exploding, when Lil Town wrote Old Nas Old Town, what is it? Lil Nas Old Town Road?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. When that started to really take off, we used it in a Rambo trailer and got it for a really good price, but that was prior to it being number one on the charts for 19 weeks. So if you could get in early, sometimes it really ends up paying off, and your whatever it's attached to can grow with it.
Absolutely. Wow. I guess that's where it comes in handy to be sort of not a tastemaker, but also just like on the pulse,
Yeah, and ear to the ground, and the labels will tell you like this artist is about to blow up. They say that a lot, but sometimes they're right, and they see the metrics of their social following, and like Kid Laroi, I mean, it just absolutely took off. Exactly, and it's really cool.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Because you were speaking about TikTok, I just want to ask,
Oh, no.
how did that happen?
Yeah.
Oh man, it's
what
crazy.
happened there?
It's been 2 days of this.
Yeah. Let me see. As I just posted a new video, so I don't know how it's doing right
we
now.
just saw it right
Yeah, we
before this.
did.
Hairy cactus styles. It's like, what am I doing? You know,
I'm
but
so
it's
interested
like,
in these cactus things. Like, what are they?
Yeah.
Why don't they all respond? It's really
I think
interesting.
I don't know if I'm getting. These are getting better each one. Okay, great. That's so the video got 27 million views in one day.
Whoa.
Holy.
Yeah. And what happened was
16.
I was just browsing TikTok, and then there was this lady who had a daughter, or I guess an infant baby child, and put the cactus in front of it, and the cactus started imitating everything the baby would say, and the baby just started bawling, crying, and freaking out. And so I laughed, and all the comments were like, "Ha ha!" You know, it was funny. And I just thought, what would my trumpet sound like through this? And so I went to Amazon and I bought one, and then I filmed myself using it for the first time, and I posted it, and I got like 3 million likes. And then I immediately went to Amazon and bought 7 more because I was thinking like a cactus choir would be pretty funny. And then, I also bought a cactus out because I thought, like, what could make this even more ridiculous? Oh, me wearing a cactus outfit, you know? So I got it, and then they all sound the same, like little minions.
Yeah.
And then they start a feedback loop with each other when one doesn't hear, and then it gets to utter chaos. And they keep going. They just keep going. So I filmed the one today a couple times, but I messed up a couple times, and it sucks because you have to turn every single one off and turn them back on, and you have to be very quiet around them, because if one makes a sound, then it'll trigger all of them, and you're just like,
oh
no.
my God.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
And so it took off, and I'm getting messages from people all over the world, which is hilarious. And someone's like, you should play with Lil Nas. And I don't think they're making the correlation that I played on the track, you know?
Yeah.
And then I go on today, and it's like, Billie Eilish has liked your post.
Yeah, we saw that.
Yeah. And I'm like, that's
what did that
awesome.
feel like?
It was cool because, she brings people so much joy through her music, and I assume and hope the cool part is the videos received overwhelming positive feedback. Not one person has said anything negative about it.
So everybody's just laughing, having a good time.
Yeah. Even my dad, who I sent it to, he's like, that was funny. Like, I showed it to my friends and they laughed. And and so someone's saying, like, I'm going to just say this whenever I have a bad day, and all these other little things. And so it's like,
amazing.
That's cool. That it made some people's days, and it made everyone happy. And it's like, I had a blast doing it. I mean, how could you not have fun wearing a cactus outfit? You know?
Yeah, I love how you're just like sort of doubling down on it, like getting 7 and then like getting the cactus suit.
This path chose me, I don't know if I could get more gigs out of it. I got I'm at 140,000 followers now on TikTok, and
wow.
But it's I don't know, because I know the day when I post another music supervision video, they're going to be like, where's the cactus? Everyone's just going to get. So I've kind of whatever. I got to just do me. And
that's going to be really interesting to see, actually. I hope people stick around on it. Obviously not all of them will, because like you said, they're expecting that, but I hope that maybe you're able to shed some light on people that didn't even know this sort of stuff existed, and all that. Maybe you'll inspire some people to become or pursue music business or something like that, even if it's one person. That's pretty cool.
I want to start doing something in the vein of having people pop into like a YouTube series or a show where I'm hosting it live, and then they play, and I'm able to critique and give feedback on their career and trajectory. Because, as you know, and we've seen so many people in this industry, a lot of them are just rather delusional, and they haven't been told best practices or what to do or where they're at. Because every family member's like, keep going, you're doing good. But some people have these aspirations to play Madison Square Garden, and there's nothing wrong with just being like a local player or infiltrating your local market. And the average salary for a musician's, $30,000 a year. Only 7,500 artists make above 100K or more on Spotify every year.
I did
Yeah.
not know those numbers. Wow.
Yeah, 7,500. So if you think about that, that's including bands, and sometimes bands have 6 people. So if you're a band of 6 people and that's 100K, that's still not above 30K a year. And what I'm saying is it's tough. It's tough to monetize the arts, and so either you have to have a special talent from an early age, or really have your repertoire down and your ducks in order. And the music industry and business as a whole is often looked at as an oversight, or that'll come later. But people don't study it before diving into it. And I think if they did, they would understand the risk more and be able to assess that 7,500 people making the 100K. Well, how many people in the US make over 100K? That figures more around, I think it was 30 or 24 million people.
Wow.
So 0.0004% make, if I told you that getting on a plane, you'd have a 0.0004% of survival, would you get on it? Of course not.
True.
So what makes you special, and what's going to make you shine through, the crowd?
Exactly. I think that's something that I love about, the sort of circles I'm in, ambient music and stuff. Like, I don't think anybody's getting into it to make a lot of money, unless they have aspirations to get on, certain big playlists. But even that's not sort of sustainable, maybe over the next 10 years. I don't know. But I think that's something that's good. Everybody's just slowly building and learning, and it's super just helpful, as an artist that's coming up, not to have huge expectations. Just do what you're loving to do.
Yeah.
And because if you're looking for anything else other than just having fun, learning, you're going to get disappointed when you don't reach your goals, right?
Exactly. Absolutely.
Yeah. I guess that's something also that you sort of have an advantage of, being in the music industry or music business industry, and then sort of starting to really focus on your trumpet playing and stuff. Like, you already know the sort of technicalities of what needs to be done and how to have all your eggs in the basket for when opportunities do come up. You know exactly how to be ready for it, right?
Yeah, especially with the latest viral video, I could understand how I've been behind a ton of campaigns where they do go viral because we have a whole publicity department behind it, and it's all set up and it's arranged, and you execute, and then you see all the results trickle in. But for someone who's not used to that type of fame, or who doesn't know where to navigate in after it happens, the consequences can be disastrous. One person in particular is Rebecca Black that I could think of. I mean, she had an international platform available for her, not in the best light, but that means you could only go in the other direction, which is a positive one if you have the right team behind you. Her story, if you look into it, she had a corrupt manager who was actually, the way it works is, if you're a manager, you take 15% of a client's, the deal could be structured however, but it's typically 15%. But she was making people pay an upfront fee or a monthly retainer, and that it's rather predatory towards aspiring artists who are dumping all their cash into this person and not really delivering. And it's like the manager, and there's laws against it, and she actually got sentenced and made an example of. But it just goes to show you, your team means everything, and it's really important to have a manager that could process that information and these offers coming in and guide you to the next level of your career and trajectory. It's just really important. And there's not many people out there who have the wherewithal or who know how to do that or handle these things or be efficient with their responses and know who's who and know what's best for their clients. So that being said, there are a ton of good people as well. So it's just tough to, it takes a little bit to navigate and find the right place. But yeah, it's crazy out there.
It really is. The stories that I've heard are kind of nuts. But It's funny. I feel like this podcast has kind of gone backwards from our usual.
Yeah, I know.
Normally we start with like, you know, the history, how you picked up the trumpet and stuff,
Oh,
and then
okay.
we get into all this stuff.
Yeah.
But it's cool. I love how like sort of flowing this is, and
Yeah.
I hope
Yeah, it's good.
we're not cutting too much into your time. I don't know if you have a time limit. No, okay.
No, all good.
Cool. With that being said, I do want to get into sort of your history. When did you pick up the trumpet for the first time? Like, what were the reasons there?
Yeah, it was in fifth grade, and I was in public school, and they just had all the instruments laid out in front of us, and I chose the trumpet because it looked like it was the easiest to play because of just the 3 valves. And I'm like, yeah, that's not going to be hard at all to do.
Absolutely.
So you see a saxophone with all the keys, and you're like, that's no way. Turns out that's like 10 times easier. But so yeah, I just started playing, and there's a bunch of times where I wanted to quit because it's tough to break through these different barriers of it, but I just kept at it. And I realized I had to choose between swimming and trumpet to get into a good university because I was just an average student. So I got better at trumpet, and in high school, I joined a couple youth orchestras. Like my junior year, I joined this one called the Peninsula Youth Orchestra up in the Bay Area. And then my senior year, I joined the California Youth Symphony. And both of those included tours each summer. The tour for my junior year, we went to Spain and France. It was really cool.
Wow.
And played in these chapels and amazing places. And then senior year, I went to China, and we played all around Beijing and a couple other places. And so that was a great experience, and it made my orchestral chops up to where they needed to be for when I auditioned for college.
Wow. So you continued playing, like, I feel like by the end of elementary school, when you kind of don't have to take a music class anymore, a lot of people opt not to.
Mm-hmm.
Did you just find yourself enjoying it, or were you just really good at it? Or not really good, but were you taking up naturally, or what made you continue?
Yeah, it was just always a fun thing to do. It was just resonating with me, and I loved the sound of it and what it could do to songs. And I always loved jazz band and playing in that, and starting to hit high notes and all the immature things that you start to do with trumpet, you know, being loud and stuff. And then, but I've always viewed it as having the capabilities of blending and having the softness of a violin, because when you ever think of trumpet, you always think of like loud and blasting. But my approach has always been like more behind the scenes stuff. So I just wanted to keep at it. And each place I went to had a program for it, like my public middle school. And then I went to private high school, and then college was public college, and just was having a blast. But it was my junior year, my professor just sat me down and said, "Hey, you're not going to make it. You're not good enough."
Oh, wow.
And it was a tough conversation, but I was really thankful for it because it allowed me to pivot to be behind the scenes in the industry, which is where I'm really happy at. So it was good. It was a good conversation to have.
That's really good. But at the same time, like, do you ever think back and feel like maybe if you like didn't hear that and continued pushing yourself, that you could have gotten there? Like, do you feel like that conversation almost made you take a step back and go like, okay, maybe I shouldn't be putting so much time and effort because I'm not going to make it? Or...
Absolutely. Yeah. I changed my whole trajectory. And
wow.
I that year I got an internship that summer, and I really pivoted away from the trumpet because I just knew it was going to be so hard to land an orchestra job or to sustain by playing the trumpet. Like, you have to proactively always look for gigs. And then you see what happened during the pandemic. I mean, that was just devastating for every single musician because all the gigs dried up. The LA Phil, even they stopped playing and had to reduce salaries. So it's like, holy crap, you know?
Yeah, imagine being part of that, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, private lessons. It's like you're in the room with someone. I know a lot of orchestral teachers. It's like you can't conduct that over Zoom, a choir or an orchestra. You got to be in person. And so that was just, in hindsight, it was a really good move because everyone, I mean, I wanted to tour with some band, you know, but every single touring artist that I meet who wants to get into scoring music always wants to abandon being on the road now after they've done it for like 10 years, just because it's physically taxing. You have the time zone changes. You're in a different city. They might have a family that they want to start and they're on the road. You can't do that. So there's all these different factors in the life that you want to live.
For sure.
Yeah. As someone who's in music supervision, you haven't done any scoring before, have you? Or have
No,
you?
I have not scored.
Is that something that you're interested in getting into, or you kind of just like the position you're in now?
Yeah, I like where I'm at now. I'd be happy to play on a score. There's one film in particular called Nebraska that had an amazing score with trumpet laced all throughout it that I thought was so really, really cool. Yeah. One of my favorite films as well. But I leave that for the professionals. Like, again, it's like the difference between me playing and the top tier jazz guys. It's like, I have a basic understanding and I know what's going on, but the composers that I've worked with are just, they're magicians, really.
For sure.
Yeah. They're so efficient and, so skilled, and, you know, they've put in the work. Like I've been putting in a lot of work music supervision wise, so I feel very competent on that end. And one of the things I do for my job is I'm a translator. I take what the producers and directors are saying and then tell the composer it in his language and vice versa, because sometimes they don't know how to describe things, or they want to articulate something a certain way, but they can't really do it, or they'll confide in me because it might be too harsh to tell the composer. So when it comes to all the score cues and reviewing them and making revisions, I'm the point of contact and taking all those notes and processing them to the composer.
That's really interesting. So as a supervisor, you're not only, you know, getting syncs and licensing tracks for it, but you're actually working with the composer of the film as well?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it varies on every film. Sometimes the composer will be in direct contact with the director, and it's like a seamless thing. But some other
that's how
projects,
it's always been for me.
Yeah, some other projects there needs to be an intermediary to.
That's cool.
To make sure, like, not unreasonable things are being asked for, and that everything's on course and on pace.
Absolutely, I think that'd be so helpful. Even just looking back on my scoring jobs and stuff, I wish there was somebody in between me and the director sometimes.
And that's the thing. I'm happy to take the hit, you know, between either party as well, and like shoot the messenger. I don't want. I just want to keep the peace among everyone as well, and
that keeps the quality there of the final product.
Right, make sure we all make it to the finish line as one. Yeah.
So out of all the movies that you've been a part of, what do you think would be your favorite?
Or at least most proud? Yeah,
most proud.
So the interesting thing is I've only been a music supervisor now for 2 years. When I was at Lionsgate, I was more on the marketing side of soundtracks and scores. So I saw what music supervisors did, but I never licensed a song or cleared a song or did any of that stuff. So my capacity in the projects are different, but in terms of a favorite one where I like really stepped up and started to embody more work, and I felt like the point contact was La La Land. There was just so many different products between the soundtrack and the digital and the vinyl and the score, digital vinyl. And then we had a special box set, and I was handling a lot of the marketing materials and the publicity around the soundtrack, which was really important. And, it ended up being kind of the perfect storm between the film doing well and the music doing well, and being involved in the campaign from its inception through the awards campaign. So that's basically 3 years if you include principal photography. So that overseeing that whole thing was pretty cool. And when you're in it that much, you don't really know the cultural significance of it. So one of the best ways to do it is by going to the events that like Airbnb hosted. They have this annual event each year where they host it in a different city. And that year they hosted it in LA. And one of the things they did was they integrated La La Land screening in it, a special advanced screening.
Cool.
And we hired a jazz band to perform prior to the screening and everything. But some people showed up in the Mia and Sebastian outfits, and you see everyone like super excited and wearing, the ties. And that's when you know, like, oh, okay, your work is being seen and heard. And I saw a couple debates on Facebook between friends between Moonlight and La La Land, and you're just like, oh, okay, it's cool to like just play a little part in all that,
Yeah.
Man, that's amazing. I feel like as somebody, I mean, both of us love film and stuff. Like, I feel like that's such an exciting career path to be in, like being able to see, like you said, being in it, you sort of don't see the impact that some of these movies make, but just being able to say, like, you were part of La La Land from the beginning, from the inception almost of the film, like that's really, like that's a legendary.
Yeah,
almost, right?
that's amazing.
Thank you. And the more recently, what I've done with like Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard and Till Death and The Protege and Jolt, those I've all music supervised, and it was just a lot of fun because you're working with new people, new directors, new producers every film, and new music needs. Like Till Death's a thriller, Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard is action and comedy, The Protege is more action packed, so action drama. So all these different films require different needs in music, and period pieces or The Protege, some of it's based in Vietnam, so it's like you have to figure out how you're going to secure music of that genre. And Till Death, like one scene, Megan Fox drops a vinyl player, a needle on a vinyl player, and it's like it's up to me to find out what song that's going to be for, and so luckily for that one I found a pretty cool authentic 1960s track, and it fit great in there. It took a little bit to get there with the director, but he ended up liking it. So it's just it's a fun process, and I'm still learning a lot as well, which is great.
That's amazing. It's just so interesting to hear. I love it. Going back, you said in your junior year, your teacher said whatever, but was that your junior year of college or
college?
High school? Okay, college.
Yeah.
What did you actually go to college for? What was your sort of
trumpet performance?
Degree? Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, a music major.
Oh, cool. I didn't know that. I thought it was for like some sort of music business of some sort.
No, and that's the other thing is the school didn't even have a music major or minor when I went there in terms of music industry. And that's why USC has excelled so much, is because they really got on top of that. And what happened recently was Herb Albert made a very generous donation to UCLA. So now it's the Herb Albert School of Music, and it's its own school within UCLA now. And they revamped the curriculum and they're updating it. And now there's a music industry major and minor, which is great. And I'm on the board of alumni there, and we're just trying to beef up the awareness of the school a little bit more and make it compete with that school across town to be like, we put out awesome alumni. We're in the epicenter of the music industry, and we want people to be teaching there and bringing in the industry leaders who are able to lead Bruins who are graduating with awesome internships and good jobs as well.
Absolutely. Did I read today that you are actually going to be teaching a course there? Yeah.
So there's UCLA Extension, which is open to anyone who wants to apply to it. And it's a music supervision course. So I'm going to be teaching for 11 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And it's 3 hours a week at the UCLA campus. And I'm going to be teaching all about music supervision, from what it is, the process, what you go through, scenarios that you encounter. I want students to come away knowing where to go to find music, how to clear it, and to understand the process so that if they ever get hired as a music supervisor, they'll know exactly what to do and how to accommodate any budget or need for a piece of visual media that they're working on.
That's amazing. Congratulations on that.
That must be so
Thank you.
exciting.
Yeah, that's really, really cool.
Yeah, the game plan is to create a curriculum so I could take it to other places and teach it at, different universities or wherever else, just as it's really nice because it allows me to connect with other people and to advocate on behalf of music supervisors and teach a craft that I think is rapidly growing and needed.
Yeah, it's important to, like, the music makes the film sometimes, a lot of the time.
Right.
When you first got into this career, did you ever imagine yourself teaching about it? Like,
I wanted to teach, but I didn't know it was going to be about music supervision.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you were interested in teaching before.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
It's just like, I was like, well, what am I going to be able to talk about
Yeah.
for that long? But now I finally have something to talk about for that long.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Thank you.
I love it. Your whole story is just so inspiring, and I hope anybody listening to this podcast is taking it seriously, because you're the epitome of, like, success almost in my book. Like,
That's too kind. I mean, there's definitely some bumps along the road. Like I got fired from United Talent Agency. I got let go from Lionsgate, and it's like, you could either let those things really let you down or continue to rise through those, like, situations. And luckily it's worked out, but just always projecting a positive attitude about it, I think, is needed, and transparency in the music industry is needed because, as you know, and I know, it has a bad stigma a lot of times, and there just needs to be people that champion for it.
yeah, I love that. Yeah, and I think exactly, you take every opportunity positively, and obviously, in the macro sense, maybe in the micro sense, you sort of, worry about things and all that. But
yeah, of course,
in the macro sense,
I cry
you take
23
advantage.
hours of the day, but like, you see me happy for
Oh man,
just a little bit.
To sort of slowly wrap it up, do you have any other hobbies outside, music in your career? Like, I know you're a swimmer, an avid swimmer.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about that at all? Because I feel like that's really cool. Like, you don't really hear about many people swimming as a hobby.
Yeah. Well, as I mentioned earlier, that was one of the things I had to abandon quite a bit to pursue trumpet. And I didn't do it all throughout college. And then I really wanted to find a better way to work out than the gym and running. So I went back to swimming and I found out there's a thing called Master Swim Program across the whole nation. And luckily, Southern California is very involved in it. So there's one in Santa Monica where I was living at the time. So I joined the swim team there, and they host it at like 5 a.m, 6 a.m, and then 6 at night and 7 at night. And it's an hour of swimming. And there's a coach there. They give you a set, and then you swim with everyone else.
Oh, very cool.
And you could just hop into, whatever class you want, depending on your schedule. And then during the pandemic, I ended up moving. So I go to Irvine and swim there. And it's a different swim team, but they're very intense. And when I went in I didn't swim for a year and a half because of the pandemic. And when I went back for the first time, I was like, oh my God, it was the hardest thing. I thought I was going to die. Like I left the workout early, 40 minutes in, and I was like, I am so above my head. I don't know if it's because I bought a Peloton during the pandemic, but
Okay.
I thought I was like, what the hell is going on? But I've been doing it now for, it's been 6 months, and I'm back. So that's good.
Nice.
That's amazing.
Amazing.
But yeah, it just shows you with practice how out of shape you could get,
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know that personally. Yeah, and I remember when we made Leita North, I learned that you did the swim to Alcatraz.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was like, I was so stuck on this fact that you swam to Alcatraz because, as a kid with Alcatraz being in pop culture and, the Tony Hawk Pro Skater games and all this stuff, like I was obsessed. I was like this abandoned prison that people tried to escape, and I was like obsessed with it. So when I heard that you did that, I was just like, you can do that? I didn't even know this was possible.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny. When you hear about it, it sounds really daunting. But then when you look into it, I mean, no one has ever been bitten by a shark in the Bay Area. So that's comforting, at least. But then there's a YouTube video of a seal that gets killed and eaten right at Alcatraz. And it's on camera because it's the boat camera is, and you just see the water turn bright red.
Oh my God. Like a scene from Jaws.
It is. Yeah. And what happens is it's usually a juvenile great white that just swims in there and it's misguided. And then obviously because Pier 39, they have all the seals there. So that's like just like a little feeding ground for them. But when you're around 500 other swimmers, you're pretty good. You'll be fine. It's just like the current's hard to swim against. And I've done it 3 times, so I don't know how many, like if I want to do it anymore. It was fun.
How long is that?
It's 1.5 miles.
Okay.
So the thing is, the first time I did it, it took like 38 minutes. The second time was 35, and the third time I did it in 29 minutes.
Wow.
So I was getting better because of my master's swimming, but my master's swimming, each workout's an hour. So it's really not that hard because I'm swimming for an hour continuously 4 times a week. And so doing that, it's a race. Like I'm swimming hard the whole time, but it's not that hard. It's not as like crazy as it sounds. But what I will say is I've been watching a ton of Everest documentaries. I'm not going to I will never climb Everest or any mountain for that matter. But that is what fascinates me. Is that
absolutely, yeah.
And they have to leave the bodies up there. It's insane.
I know.
Yeah, I can't even imagine climbing anything like that and having to pass that.
Like,
or at least even knowing it's like underneath and you're like, okay, people have literally, a lot of people have passed away doing what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
What am I doing?
When they hit the death zone where the oxygen level is below the saturation that you could keep up with, it's like you're literally dying when you're up there. And knowing that, as you said, so many people are up there, it's just like, no, thank you. Like, why are we doing this?
Yeah,
exactly. We have helicopters now.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I think the thing that impresses me though, like I was never a great swimmer. I'm still not a good swimmer. And so just imagining swimming 1.5 miles, I don't think, like I never even considered the sharks. My mindset is just, I can't believe you swam that far. Like I don't think I could make it halfway. I'd need a life jacket for sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's, they have a cutoff time because some people sign up for it and they send out about 6 emails leading up to it saying, if you cannot go this far in this amount of time prior to this swim, like, please just bow out because some people just want to do it and say that they did it. But like when I do it, I'm competitively trying to get there as fast as possible. But it's just, again, like repetition and playing and practicing. And I think that's where music has disciplined me the most, is that if I don't have a solution to something, I know what proper steps to take to practice and to get there.
Yeah.
Whereas some people just don't even know where to start or don't get started because it's too daunting.
Absolutely. Like
looking at Everest, you got to take it one step at a time as opposed to going straight up there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's interesting because, I mean, I'm not saying we've ever mountain climbed, but we're definitely hikers.
Yeah.
And we like to go to some, to me, are pretty high peaks and stuff. And being in California, have you ever hiked in Yosemite and stuff?
No, I haven't.
Oh, no.
Remind me what area you guys are in again?
Oh, we're in Toronto, so we're flat everywhere.
Yeah. We travel to hike.
Yeah. No, I haven't. And so, hiking has just never been my thing. I like walks, but can't do it all.
I'm bugging to go to Yosemite.
Yeah.
I've heard
hopefully
phenomenal
this year.
things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that where the one guy did the
Free
free
solo.
solo?
Yeah.
So my former boss music supervised that. Her name's Tracy McKnight.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
amazing.
And
I
there
love
was
that.
original song at the end of that. But I saw that in IMAX, and that was one of those things where I had to stand up during it to be like, this is insane, because it takes people like that who don't have a regard for themselves or their well-being to push boundaries and do crazy things like this.
I love
Yeah.
it. What's his name? It's Alex. I think it's
Yeah,
Alex something.
it's Alex
I think
something.
so.
Oh man, I remember when we watched that too. I was like, I obviously don't want a free solo, but I want to go there. Not climb a face of a mountain, but
Exactly.
I want to be around the area and
Yeah.
be able to look at it.
Yeah.
Oh man, I love that.
Yeah.
I guess last question. Do you have any sort of advice to anybody coming up in the industry, whether it be an instrumentalist or someone coming up in the business side?
Yeah, definitely. I think one of the most important things is to understand the landscape and what's going on. So it's really important to read the trades every day, whether it be Variety or Deadline or Hollywood Reporter or Billboard or Rolling Stone or any of those digital music news. There's some good blogs as well, Bob Lefsetz's, to just get tuned in to know the landscape and who the movers and shakers are and the different deals that are being made. And even like 5 years ago, he wouldn't read a single article about publishing getting acquired from someone's catalog. And now that's really hot. And the market's always changing and companies are growing and consolidating and merging. And, you have MGM and Amazon Studios. You have the emergence of Apple TV. You have the emergence of Netflix. You have Paramount Plus getting started. You have Peacock. You have HBO Plus. You have Disney, their streaming service. You have Hulu, YouTube, who had their originals, which really didn't take off. There's like all these different conglomerates and sectors that are just really important to learn about. And I think that reading at least the headlines once a day really helps get you there. And you could see one of the coolest things is in terms of any artist's career is that it's mostly likely already happened. So every marketing plan could be emulated in your budget depending on what you want to do. And the blueprint's there for anyone. Like you could see how anyone got their career launched. What was their big defining moment that put them in the spotlight? It could have been a bunch of cactus and a trumpet. It could be a YouTube video like Bieber. And, there's nothing wrong with imitating it and putting your own twist on it. But there are certain parameters and things that you need to get set up to have success in the industry. And there's nothing wrong with like following in the footsteps of what other people have done. So that's my advice.
I love that because I know a lot of people are maybe like they want to carve their own path.
Yeah.
And even with following the trails of success that other people have done, you're still carving your own path no matter what it is. Like I think people have to realize that. And even the fact that you mentioned I don't want to say mainstream media, but a lot of like the bigger magazines and stuff follow those because there's just advice and what's the word I'm looking for?
Guidance
Guidance everywhere.
Yeah.
I think that's really cool. And I think a lot of people try to say that, they don't pay attention to mainstream stuff. And I think it's really cool that you go headfirst into it, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, everyone wants
inspiring.
to blaze their own trail path and say, oh, you sold out. It's like, okay.
I don't care.
Since when is success like a bad thing,
Exactly.
For sure. I love that.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's amazing.
Wow. Thank you for being on this.
Of course. Thank you guys. And thank you again.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love your outlook on everything. And it's just inspiring to watch, like over the last, 3 or 4 years, you have just, the things that you've accomplished are just make me want to push so hard.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
that's
it's
great
so
to hear.
inspiring and
Thank you.
motivating.
Yeah, it's very motivating. And yeah, for anybody listening, I hope you look into Ryan's music. His newest album, To Elaine, has been great, and you should definitely listen to it and stream it and put it on your playlist and save it and share it.
Thank you.
And is it on Bandcamp?
It is not on Bandcamp.
Well, you should put it on Bandcamp, and people should buy it.
Okay. All right.
Have it everywhere, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, thank you everybody for listening, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you guys.